Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Anissa Brene, and you are tuned into Select Conference. This is Mastery. We are in partnership with United Masters and Quality Films, and today I have the super honor of sitting here with two legends, two men who have created songs, who have been a part of the process of songs that are a part of the soundtrack to not only my life, but all of ours. So I'd like to just welcome my two guests, Johntá Austin and Bryan Michael Cox. How you doing?
Yeah.
Good.
Great. Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm super excited to have you both. This is actually a dream of mine. I was telling Johntá just a little while ago, like, I sat here like, what if I ever had a conversation with two greats like yourself? What would I say? And yeah, it's hitting me. It's happening. So I'm super excited. Both of you all are Grammy award winning. I like to give people their flowers while they're here. I see the setup behind you, Peacock. We love to see it.
Appreciate it.
But yeah, Grammy award winning, notable for work that we stand on couches to in the club, Burn, Be Without You, Sweet Lady, Miss You. Y'all have really come through for generations. And I think even now you have continued to do so. So before we jump in, I have to ask, how are you all mentally with everything that's been going on in the world? How have you been able to maintain, especially during this pandemic?
You want to go, Johntá?
Okay. I mean, for me, it's been good. Obviously, the Versus thing was a huge thing that took place during COVID, so that was good. And mentally, it's been fine. I'm been at the house with the family. I found out that I'm really happy with my decision of who I married and and my kids, and I figured out I like everybody enough to be around them every single day, all day long. So that's that was great to discover, but no, in a good place. Thanks for asking.
I think for me, it's been a place of like reflection. You know what I mean? We spend so much time moving around. I spend so much time in the studio, doing parties, DJing, the whole nine, and hadn't really, sat down and really reflected on like my life and what I really wanted to do and really get some focus. I think that, it's unfortunate what's happening in society. But there is silver lining. The silver lining is that I think there's a great awakening happening with our people. And I'm proud to be a part of that awakening. And this has it's been a good place to just sit still. You know what I mean? I haven't sat still in a long time. So, sit still, you got to deal with yourself. And, it's been good, creating opportunities, finding new ways to create opportunities that are out of the box of what you would normally do because of the situation. So it's been good.
Absolutely. That's wonderful. Well, I'm glad to hear that both of you all are doing well. I, on the other hand, have been in the house picking up all kinds of DIY, YouTube, Pinterest, trying new meals. And
same here.
I've even learned how to do my own. Okay. Learned how to record things on my own, learned how to do my hair, do my nails. Listen, we are COVID free over here. 100%. Yes, literally everything.
Absolutely. I love that. I'm staining my garage floor this week. Speaking of do it yourself, so I'm gonna see how that works out.
Hey man, we have nothing but time now. You know what I'm saying?
Right, nothing but time.
Nothing but time. So
well, look,
I get it.
In the spirit of Bryan Michael Cox, what you just said about having time to sit down and to reflect, I can honestly say I've been doing the same thing. Spent a lot of time thinking about the things I wanted to do and the journey in which I'm on, which I'm sure a lot of creatives have been doing the same. So that's really why I'm here now, to talk to you both about your journey into the music industry. And I'm sure people ask you all the time, well, how did you get your start? And you're like, oh, snap, here we go. We're going back down the journey. But I think for this new generation, it's important to hear that this success that you all have is not an overnight thing. It's been many years. It's been many years in the making. And I'd just be interested to dive in a little bit. You guys cool with that?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Cool. So I'm just going to ask the basic question. how and what was the thing that told you I want to get into the music industry? I'll start with Peacock.
Well, I mean, I've always been into music and always, was into, who was behind the scenes doing music. Like I always got, they make fun of me. They call me like another reason why me and Johntá are so close is because when we first met, we had the same enthusiasm and same like, reverence for credits and for like who did what and who produced what and who engineered that. And, you know what I mean? So we would have conversations amongst ourselves in rooms. People were like, what are they talking about? Like, but it's just, I just always had a love for the art and for the craft of it. You know what I mean? And it goes all the way back to, you're a kid and listening to Michael Jackson and listening to, Prince was out and, my first movie I went to was Purple Rain. It's just kind of, as a kid, my big cousin snuck me into the movie to see Purple Rain. So it's like music has always been a part of like my immediate surroundings. And my mother, was an avid record collector. So that's where I got my like first whiff of like wanting to know and understand what is the music business, like how do they make this music, like how does who's behind the person on the front of the album. And I remember one memory specifically was Michael Jackson's Thriller. I remember looking on the back of the album, Quincy Jones had a logo on the album. I never forgot that. You know what I'm saying? It's like, there's three names on this album. It's Michael Jackson, Quincy Jones, and then there's an Epic Records logo. Like, so these three people, like, why does Quincy Jones have a logo on the back of this album? I want to know that. You know what I'm saying? And as a young mind, I didn't really understand it, but eventually I realized that it's a producer, and I started understanding what a producer was, and you meet certain people that kind of set you on your path, you know what I mean? So it's something I've always wanted to do, even before I knew what it was, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for me, a similar story, similar, trajectory, as Bryan said. We kind of have, similar upbringing and, studying credits and, seeing things like that. So yeah, I remember, Michael Jackson, of course. But I think for me, it was like, Boyz II Men, like Biv 10, like seeing, Michael Bivins and seeing that logo, the basketball with the Biv 10 around it, and it was like, man, this is ABC, Boyz II Men. And MC Brains was number 10 for the, for the founding core of Biv 10. So yeah, and just, listening to records and kind of seeing those influences, the same thing. I did not get a chance to watch Purple Rain. I was trying, my mom was going to let me watch it. And then my aunt was like, I don't think he's old enough to see this. I remember being so mad, man. Just, cause my uncle was a huge Morris Day fan. So like I, wanted to see it because of Morris Day. Like he would pick me up from school and, we ride around listening to The Time. And, he taught me how to do the bird. Yeah. How to,
Okay.
But yes, it was similar to B. Cox. That was like, my early education.
Yeah, that's awesome. I appreciate that. I feel like this time during quarantine has given us a lot of moments to sit down and educate ourselves. I saw in one of your interviews, Johntá, where you mentioned that looking at credits hasn't really been the most popular thing to do like it once was a long time ago. I think the furthest that we've gone as a new generation is hearing the tag on a song for that producer or things like that. So speaking to the credits piece, just what are your thoughts on tagging a song now versus just letting the song speak for itself?
I mean, that kind of started in our, generation. It may not have been as, I don't know if overt or kind of uniform as it is now, but, you go back to Teddy Riley and the Yep Yep, that was on his records. And, Puff made sure to let you know this was Bad Boy. You know, Rodney Jerkins with Dark Child. You know, and then our good friend Jazzy Faye, you know, with the, you know, this is a Jazzy Fizzle production. So, you know, I feel like tagging.
He's at a few of them.
Yeah. So I feel like that's kind of been going on. Now you know, it does seem a little more uniform, whereas, you know, the producers of our generation kind of added a little flair and it was different every time. It was, you know, it was fly. But
it feels like these tags are. It feels like these tags are starting to become like a lyric in the song. So like before Summer Walker comes on, it's "We Got London on the track." You know, it's a part of the intro for me.
Right. Right, yeah. And so for us, like, you know, Puff would do it at the end, he might do it at the beginning, but it always fit within the song and didn't distract you from what was going on, to me.
I think that when we got into the whole, you know, streaming, you know, services, you know, people started consuming music via streaming and via, you know, iTunes, and got away from tangible media. I think it's just something that innately young producers just did because they kind of felt like they weren't going to get that credit love. You know what I mean? Because, you know, early on, you know, they just started putting credits on streaming services with the past year or two. You know what I mean? Like proper credits, you know. So, you know, you have people like Metro Boomin or Sunny Digital or, you know what I mean, you know, or London or, you know, anybody who's the younger guys who came up, Mike Will, you know, they had to find a way. Zaytoven, they had to find a way to let people know that they made these records. Now, where it became a little convoluted for me or a little complicated is that, you know, you would have producers getting on and then songwriters was falling to the backside. You know, you didn't really know who wrote the song because they're not putting tags on the records. So you see a shift of songwriters now becoming producers because they're actually getting the songs to the finish line. And you have somebody like a Hitmaker or somebody like a Sean Garrett or Dream, who, you know, Sean Garrett specifically has a tag. You know, I mean, he's a songwriter. He has a tag. Rico Love has a tag. You know what I mean? I don't know, man. Tags are like, to me, gifts and curses at the same time. You know what I mean? Because I feel like in the same breath, you didn't need to have Babyface speak on a record. Like, you just knew that it was Babyface. Whether it was the melody or whether it was the, you know, that same keyboard sound we use on every song. You know what I mean? Same thing with Jimmy and Terry. Jimmy and Terry didn't have to tag none of the records, but you knew a Jimmy and Terry record when you heard it. Yeah. And if you heard something that sounded like it, he was like, yo, they're trying to bite Jimmy and Terry. I mean, like, you know, so I don't know. The gift in tagging is that the producer or the creative becomes more visible instantly, especially now in the time of, like, you know, social media and stuff like that. But I think that it leans to creatives to not be as original as they could be. You know, like a Timbaland, even though sometimes he talks on records and you may know him, but Timbaland don't really have to talk on his record, like, to know that Timbaland.
You know, it's a Timbaland production.
You know what I mean? So it's, you know, it's and I guess the question is, when do you use a tag, when I use a tag? You know, I used to have a tag and I use it on a lot of joints that people remember me from, but there are a gang of records. Some of my biggest records, most of my biggest records don't have a tag on it. They're records I made before I created the tag and records I made after the tag. So, you know, I think that it could work either way, you know.
That's a word right there. I think a lot of times now, like you said, because of social media, trying to develop that relationship between the producer, the songwriter, the whoever is behind the record, using that tag is our way of saying, okay, I got to figure out who that person is. Because Lord knows my people, we tend to not always read often, as often as we should. So going into the credits isn't as.
But you know, I do like what Tidal is doing. Tidal, they're doing like playlists, like songwriter playlists written by written by, and they're breaking it down, and I like that a lot. I like they're doing that. I know Apple Music started doing it too. I mean, Apple Music did it first. Actually, they did like a playlist like behind the boards, but Tidal is really extensive. Like Tidal, it's like they aggregate all the songs you've written and produced or whatever, and they just put it in a playlist. And it's like it might be 100 songs in their playlist. So you're like, oh snap! I didn't know they did that. You learn a lot about writers, songwriters, and producers from this list. And obviously, I think Versus had a lot to do with them doing that. You know what I mean? You know,
I was just about to say that.
The Johntá Austin
Yeah,
playlist is available on Tidal too, for everyone who wants to.
yes, it is. Yes, it is. Well, speaking of, I know in the beginning of both of your careers, there was somebody in place, maybe a mentor, or maybe there was an opportunity presented to you. And I feel like a lot of times, for people that are in my age group, we're always looking to reach straight up to the top. Talk to me a little bit about collaborating within your own network, as opposed to saying, you know what, I gotta get with B Cox, I gotta get with Johntá Austin, I gotta do all of these things, when a lot of the time we have the people right next to us. Because I know you were saying, it started on campus for you. Really seeing a flyer and going to take the opportunity, and one thing led to the other, and you got to smash. We got Where the Party At. We got Burn, Confessions. I think that's a big point, and I'd love to hear you talk a little bit about that. Collaborating.
Also, collaborating is important. I mean, I also feel like you just have to prepare yourself for an opportunity. You know what I'm saying? I think before that, the opportunity presented itself, which at the time wasn't, to the average person at that time, they probably wouldn't have looked at that flyer and said, this is an opportunity. You know what I mean? It's just, I went to Clark in the late 90s, and it wasn't unusual to have street team stuff all over the campus. That was like, when you would start promoting, you know what I mean, for your records, you would start in the college campus, you know what I mean? And a lot of street teams will hang out there. So it wasn't odd to see a flyer or see, just promo stuff everywhere on campus, especially back then. I'm talking about everywhere, on trees, everywhere.
Right.
So for me to see that flyer and for it to be so specific, you know what I mean? Like, it was like, they weren't looking for producers neither, by the way. They were basically promoting the producers that they had already, and was saying, if you're looking for banging beats, call this number. Now, I don't know who would be on campus looking for banging beats, because people at school are broke, poor. And nobody buying no Teddy Bishop, J Dove, anybody. Can't nobody afford no noontime beats in 1997 at Clark Atlanta University. You know what I'm saying? So you have to say all these different things that happen. It's like that was just meant to happen, like, because it was a number on there, and I'm like, don't nobody see this? You know what I mean? For me, also, I was like, I'm picking this flyer up and I'm calling this number every day until somebody calls me back. You know what I mean? But at that point, I've been, preparing, working towards something, working on my craft as a piano player, as a musician, understanding what production is. I still wouldn't claim that I was really that good up until that point. I had a lot of potential at that point. I was a great musician, you know what I mean? But from a producer perspective, there's so much I had to learn, you know what I mean? And I was willing to learn, you know what I mean? But I had a foundation. And when I got that call from Chris Hicks to meet with them, I had a strategy. I think a lot of times people jump into this thing and they don't really have an idea or a strategy what they want to do. Like you said earlier, people say, I want to just get to the top, right? For me, I knew, okay, hey, I know I have something to offer, but I can't go into this building with people that I don't know, that are already moving on a high level, and try to sell myself as this, hot producer or whatever, where I know I'm not quite there yet. Let me put myself in position to learn. And one thing I've always known about life is that hard work beats natural talent every time. I know a lot of people who are naturally talented who still sing in their church and could have had a record deal 20 years ago. You know what I mean? Just totally looked at their lives and kind of watched their lives pass by, expecting somebody to come and get them. You know what I mean? Or because I'm talented. Okay, cool. I knew that I had a talent, but I also knew that if I'm going to approach this thing, I got to show whoever I'm going to be around that I am willing to do whatever it takes from a work perspective to get to the next step. You know what I mean? And literally, that was my mindset. I didn't tell anybody this. I just was like, okay. When I met Chris, he gave me an opportunity to be like an intern. I was like, cool. Started interning, and then from there, it's like, well, I could record sessions. You know what I mean? Okay, well, cool. You can record sessions. So I had an opportunity to record a session with Eric Roberson, and that turned into a next step. You know what I mean? And then the next step was Teddy and Jazzy seeing me trying to learn a drum machine. You know what I mean? Every day in there trying to break the drum machine down. And I think they were just like, yo, this kid is relentless. Like, this guy wants it. And if somebody else sees it, like, you can see it for yourself, but when somebody else sees it, you won't have to advocate for yourself. They'll advocate for you. That's exactly what happened. You know what I mean? Those guys started advocating for me, and then Newman was like, yo, man, hey, I'm going to give you an opportunity, And all I needed was that much, you know what I'm saying? I didn't just get in the building, you know what I'm saying? If I can get in the building, and also I was just intrigued with the fact that I was around people that were smarter than me, people who were better than me. So that made me, and I knew it. Like, I knew that, Bryan and Brandon Casey were better than me. I knew that Johntá was way better than me and more experienced. I knew that. And I knew that I knew Teddy Bishop. Like, I dissected everybody's craft. Like, I was a fan of everybody's, but also would listen to their music and say, okay, why is this good?
You did your research.
You know what I'm saying? I just sit in the room with Jazz and just watching. Like, people don't want to do that neither. People just want to jump in and just, you know what I'm saying? But if you have an opportunity to be around somebody like Jazzy Faye, he just he lets you sit in the room and just watch him. You know what I'm saying? I soaked up all that. I'm just sitting there, okay, man, if you mind just sit right here, I don't want to touch it. Because I'm going to sit right here and just watch you. Like, go ahead, man. And just watch him. How'd you do that? Okay, all right.
Ask you questions.
Same thing. I got in the room with J-Dub. Was like, okay, man, I'm going to just sit here and watch. You know what I mean? And the same thing. So first of all, how many producers was it, Johntá? It was like 6 of them at the time, 6 or 7?
Yeah, because it was, Jazzy, Teddy, J-Dub, Ken Fambro, Dent. Yeah, so it was about 5. And then,
and then Johntá, Bryan, and Brandon Casey were there. So I'm in the middle of this, this circle of creative people who are really just on a whole nother level. You know what I mean? I'd never been in a room with that many people who were on, everybody who was on a certain level. So I just soaked everything up. I mean, I just was like, yo, I'm sitting in the room with everybody. I want to learn from everybody. And I would take things that I learned and then try to apply it. You know what I'm saying? And I think that now, because things are so easily accessible, as far as like sounds and making tracks. So somebody earlier, I was like, yo, like anybody can make a good beat now. Anybody can put together craft. My son making beats on GarageBand. You know what I mean? Okay. You can download Splice and get loops. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, it's like anybody can make a good beat now. The issue is now, what's going to define you? What's going to make you stand out? And back in those days, everybody was trying to stand out and have their own sound. You know what I mean? You learn that you want to have your own sound. You want to develop your own thing. You know what I mean?
See, I feel like you're about to take me to a place where, you're sitting in church and like, yeah, that's good. That's good. That's what it's doing for me. So look, Johntá, as a creative, I know a lot of the times for me, especially being in this industry and floating around because I'm a butterfly, a lot of the times we can feel like we're so good at so many different things. And we're not quite sure what we want to focus on because it's like, well, I'm good in this area and I'm good in that area. So coming into the music business, you're a vocalist, you're a songwriter, producer. How did you define or decide what that thing was going to be that was just going to get you started as opposed to showing all of your cards at one time?
For me, it was, kind of necessity. I started, I first came into the game as an artist. I got a deal at 13 at RCA Records, and that didn't really work out. And I got dropped, and then Tyrese got signed in that same slot. And, so really I, was playing around with writing songs. But at the time, writing songs was my way to stay around music and the music business and to stay around something that I love. Like, as Bryan was talking about, we had the love for it. And so I was willing to do anything, while I was waiting on an opportunity to, give my artist side another try. While I was waiting on that opportunity, I was open to, just doing music by any means necessary. And so that meant I had to be a writer, demo vocalist, vocal producer, then that was the way that I was, gonna go. And then along the way, I realized that, I really enjoy writing, and then that became the thing that kind of got me out of bed in the morning, and I, figured out that I was good at it. But it started as necessity, but from a love of just, I want to be around music. I want to be around music, and I want to do music in some capacity. So if I can't be an artist right now, I still want to commit myself to music.
That's awesome. So real quick, because I know the people want to know, how old were you when you got your first placement? Because like we said in the beginning, the journey was long. Okay, the journey is long. It doesn't just happen. So for the people out there who want that song on an album or want it on the radio, want to hear it, what was that age?
Well, for me, I mean, I was a special case. I think my first placement was 15.
Mm-hmm.
And it was for,
okay.
Yeah, exactly. The Wayans Brothers soundtrack, the Don't Be a Menace to South Central while drinking your juice in the hood. That was my first placement. And it happened to be a single as well. So that was also a blessing, because a lot of people, it's like it's a journey to get a placement, and then it's a journey to actually get a single off of a project. And so I was fortunate to have that. But then, speaking to your point about the journey, Sweet Lady was about 3 years after that, about 2 to 3 years. So I didn't get another placement, until that. I didn't get another single. I had some placements like, Jason Weaver, 702. I had a couple placements here and there, but I didn't get another single opportunity, until 2 or 3 years later. So, I mean, it's all, sometimes I liken it to, it can be like sports. You have some people who go, a long time in the music business, like some athletes go a long time before they win a championship, right? And then you have some people who win a championship right off, but then it takes them a long time to win another one, or, and sometimes they never win another one. So it's that. And in the meantime, you got to keep working and dedicating yourself, to it out of the love. Like, I just knew I wanted to do music. I didn't know that, writing the biggest R&B song or the song of the decade, that wasn't on my bucket list. When I was writing songs, I just wanted to do music because I loved it.
And the point there is that you just kept writing.
Mm-hmm.
There was no stopping in between. And so, B-Cox, for you, how old were you when you got your... Keep working.
My first placement, ironically, I was about... I was 17. I claim this is my first placement because it was a remix. It was a song for Sam Salter, a record called It's On Tonight. And it was a remix to that song. It was a remix. This is when the remix game was, you had to change the whole song around. It was all new lyrics, a whole new beat, whatever. And I did this song with my guy who mentored me from Houston, a guy named Greg Curtis. A song called It's On the Night, and the remix was called It's Getting Late. And I remember, actually no, I was 18, because when it came out, I was already living in Atlanta. I was already going to college here. When it came out, I remember they sent me the 12-inch single. It was like, oh, congratulations. It's 12-inch single. And it was like, first placement. And it was, I remember seeing my name on the back of the record. I was like, oh, this is crazy. But it's, but my first proper placement, ironically for me, was the proper one was Get On. The song me and Johntá did together. My proper first placement that was like me, by myself, or or with under my circumstances. Because I think with Greg was more of he was like a teacher, so he kind of led the way with that. Creatively too. Like I came up with a few things for the track, but he kind of led the whole thing creatively. Where Get Gone was like, me and Johntá and Kevin, and just kind of like noontime, like this it, baby, so that's another thing I just realized me and Johntá had in common, that his first placement was not only a placement but a single. You know what I mean? And my
Mhm.
first placement with him was not only a placement but a single, ended up being a big single. And yeah, so that was like 19 when that happened. I was like 19 years old when that happened.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And for
How about
anybody
you?
that's watching this, I don't let the ages, stop you from continuing to pursue your dreams. Because even if you're
Yes.
past 15, 19 years old, that doesn't mean your time isn't still coming. So keep sharpening your pen. Keep going. My last question for the both of you, as I like to do these talks to give people a taste of who you are. As opposed to giving them an entire entree, because I feel like this is the perfect time, like we said, for people to go and educate themselves on the songs that we know and love. Okay. What has this business taught you, and what is a lesson or a piece of advice you could leave for people trying to break in?
I think the relationships is one thing that I've learned, from the business, the importance of relationships, keeping them good, and always, treating people special. I think that, Bryan and I, both one of our strong points is that, we can pick up the phone and call, people that we may not have spoken to in 3 or 4 years. And, the call is well received, because we treated that person good. We treated that artist good. We treated, that relationship good. So I think just the importance of relationships. And then, as Bryan said, the hard work, to the craft and the dedication to the craft. That's what I've learned. And if you got a good team and you have someone who wants it, so for, me and B Cox, and, even on the management side, we had, Chris Hicks, and to have a team of people that want what you want as bad as you want it. It just makes life so much easier, and it makes that goal, easier to accomplish. And the piece of advice that I would give to young creatives is to, starting out, develop a relationship where, you find someone who needs your services the way that you need their services. When we started out, B Cox needed writers. I needed a producer. You know what I mean? So it worked, and we didn't spend our time. I didn't spend my time chasing after, well, how do I get on Babyface's radar to write with him? And Bryan didn't spend his time, well, how do I get on Rodney Jerkins' radar to produce with him? It's, we found each other and we needed each other, and we decided that we were going to make our own thing. So I would say find someone that needs you as much as you need them. And you guys go make history together. And Dream said something really significant during our mastery talk, is that, the people that you look up to when you're doing the work, eventually it will get to us. We'll see it. You know what I mean? They'll, we'll take notice. So yeah, just develop that relationship. I can't tell you how many emails and, calls Bryan and I get, like, oh, I just started writing last week. When can we get in the studio? It's like, well, I mean, that's that's not the way it really, really works. I say, you don't just climb into the ring with Ali because you think you can box. So get you someone that needs you like you need them, and you guys go out and tackle the world. And people like Bryan and I will see you at work, and we'll see you soon.
Absolutely. And real quick, Bryan.
I think that the main thing is, just piggyback off what Johntá said, is just, heat rises to the top. If you do the work and the work is good and gratifying, I mean, no matter what, it may take some time. I think people don't understand how much time it really takes to get to a certain place. I mean, we started young, but dog, it still took some time. Like Johntá told you he was signed at what, 13? You know what I mean? Something like that?
Yeah.
To your first record deal. He made his first placement at 15, you know what I mean? Which was a single. And then it took him another 3 years to get another single, which ended up being a massive hit. So let's look 13 to what? 17, you know what I mean?
Well, and then
So
all the way to 39 before really the world found out about me through Versus. Like, so many people didn't know who I was. Like, and I'm, you know.
So that's the thing. So just understand that this thing really takes time. You have to slow cook this thing. It's a marathon, not a sprint. You have to be committed to it. I think that's the main thing. I do want to add that, once you do start seeing some traction, you start making a little money and start making some marks for yourself, respect the money. Respect the money you're making. I think a lot of times when you start making money, especially when you're young, early 20s, start feeling yourself. And it's not a bad, it's not a bad thing. We all got to go through it. You know what I mean? But man, respect that money. Please respect that money.
Already drives just as good as two. You don't need to.
Absolutely. Bars.
Respect that money.
I always say, would you rather be a Thanksgiving dinner or would you rather be a cake cuisine? One of them takes 60 seconds, the other one you actually prepare. So I appreciate the both of you so much for the contributions you all have given to the music industry. I can say without blinking, without anything, that you all, without your contributions, this music industry would not be the same. So thank you. And thank you for taking the time to talk to me. It's awesome.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having us.
My pleasure.
Yeah, shout out to Mastery, shout out to United Masters and Quality Films. Y'all stay tuned. You never know what we're gonna have next.
Yeah.